And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder. We are week 2. And I guess we'll just get started with this week's games. Georgia knocked off Ball State 45-3 in dominant fashion. Slow start, but...
Yeah, another slow start. Don't really think it's concerning because they have the football. They marched down the field. One missed assignment and then a missed field goal. They didn't get any points in the first drive. But 31 points in the second quarter. 14 in the third. Basically, the game was over by halftime. Second half, they basically had the starters in for one possession and then kind of just gave all the young kids a chance to play. But you don't like to see the slow start, but they did this last year. They start off with Oregon, beat them in dominating fashion, and then the next couple of cupcakes, it's like they're sleepwalking through it. And it ends up being a blowout, but it's kind of like, well, it didn't look as good as you thought it was supposed to. Right. But that happens, I guess. These are young guys, young kids, and they can't really get up for teams like Ball State,
especially at noon.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving right along, Michigan knocked off UNLV 35-7. We didn't see any of this one.
I caught a little bit of it, and I watched the highlights this morning. They're a balanced team. I like what they're doing. J.J. McCarthy can beat you throwing the football. They've got some good running backs. Blake Corum had 3 touchdowns this game. Roman Wilson, and if I'm not mistaken, that dude was a slot wide receiver last year. But he's really come into his own so far early this season. He's caught 3 touchdown passes in the year, if not more. But it just seems like he's the go-to guy in the passing game for J.J. So they're a really good football team, ranked number 2 in the country. Don't think that they deserve that ranking, but they're undefeated. You really can't take away from them.
That's right. And moving right along, Texas, huge win over Alabama and Tuscaloosa. What to say about this game? Ewers looked good. Milroe did not.
So we watched this game, all right? And first half, it was kind of, sluggish. They go out to basically a 10-6 lead by halftime. And honestly, I didn't think, other than one touchdown throw by Ewers, there was a handful of plays to be made that he overthrew his guy. On multiple occasions, he'd be like 3rd down and 6, he'd overthrow. And I felt that in the first half, there were many opportunities where he didn't hit his guy and take advantage of opportunities when they had. Because Alabama wasn't doing anything with their opportunities. Right. Milroe didn't look very good. He throws a really nice football, but he's inaccurate. The crazy thing is, second half, a lot more of the same. Third quarter, Texas can't capitalize on opportunities. Missed plays by Alabama would give Texas the football. They'd make a couple of nice plays to the tight end. The running back would get a nice run, and they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't get points. Then Alabama starts coming back. There was a touchdown late in the game. Texas scored a touchdown. Alabama comes back, and there's Milroe with a beautiful bomb. Now, they threw a couple of touchdowns that got called back. This one was a gorgeous pass. I think actually it was in the third quarter, maybe.
He throws a very nice deep ball.
Yeah, it was a really nice deep ball, but he's inaccurate because he overthrew some guys. He threw out 2 in front of him. He had another really nice touchdown pass where he led the wide out on a crossing pattern. The kid made the catch, did the rest on his own. But when they were throwing haymakers back at Texas, Texas came back and threw more of them back at Alabama. And I thought, tale of 2 halves, really the tale of 1 quarter. Fourth quarter, Ewers and Texas were making the plays because by the end of the third, it was one of those games where you really feel, okay, Alabama's not playing well, but they're going to pull this one out. They're just going to turn it on like they always do and pull it out. I thought Texas was shooting themselves in the foot. And then fourth quarter, Texas was like, no, we're not screwing around.
I don't know. It just seems like the Texas receivers kind of took over the game.
Yeah, A.D. Mitchell had a huge game. The ex-Georgia Bulldog had a huge game. And the ex-Georgia Bulldog for Alabama, Jermaine Burton, had a big game. He had a touchdown and another one called back. He had a big game. But A.D. Mitchell looked really sharp. I mean, he looks bigger and stronger than he did last year. It was kind of last couple of years for Georgia, he was tall but kind of lanky. Yeah. He looked like he's put on 25, 30 pounds of muscle. He's huge.
At Texas weight room. Moving right along.
But before we go, I mean, I will say great job by Texas. Great job by Sark. I mean, he was coaching probably the greatest game he's ever coached, obviously. Tough to beat Alabama at home. This is the first time Alabama's ever lost by double digits at home under Nick Saban. this is one of those deals where, like, you didn't think Texas had it in them until they did. Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that in the interview afterwards, they tried to get Quinn Ewers to say Texas is back, and he wouldn't do it. So great win for Texas, man. They're gonna jump up. They're number 11 in the rankings. I suspect they're gonna jump up into the top 5 at minimum.
Yeah, they look really good. They went to Tuscaloosa and they took it to Alabama. That's pretty impressive. Florida State knocked off Southern Miss 66-13. We kind of expected that to be the case.
I didn't see much of this game, but I did. So Keon Coleman had another touchdown. That guy's
freak show.
You know, he's one of the front runners for the portal winner.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Ohio State knocked off Youngstown State 35-7.
They looked good. Common Core looked good. They kind of, first quarter was like, 14-7, but they turned it on. Second quarter, 28-7 by the half. Game was pretty much over. The big story is Marvin Harrison got in the end zone a couple times. They seemed to be able to find him. Yeah. But I didn't expect that the struggles they had last week were going to continue.
Right. USC knocked off Stanford 56-10. Did you watch any of this one?
I didn't watch any of this game. I wish I would have because I hate Stanford. It'd be awesome to see them get the shit kicked out of them. Mm-hmm. But I was watching another game, which I actually, for the very first time in my life, I put actual money on a football game. So I watched that game late at night last night. And it sucked so bad I fell asleep.
What game was that?
Auburn-Cal. Because I felt Auburn was going to go in there and struggle. Neither one of those teams are any good. But I thought Auburn would struggle at Cal, and they did. Pulled out the win, but didn't cover the spread, so I won the bet. Mm-hmm. But it was a horrible, horrible game to watch.
Sure. Penn State knocked off Delaware 63-7. Well,
Didn't see anything but the highlights, but again, they're looking really good. The offense is humming along. Defense is good. Best defense according to, Franklin. This is the best defense he's ever had. We've heard that before. Mm-hmm. But they're looking good. They've got that offense going, and that was always the thing that, unless the quarterback is running the football, I never really thought they had the offense that could take down Ohio State, and now they do.
Absolutely. Washington knocked off Tulsa 43-10. Penix looked pretty good as well.
Yeah, they have a really, really good passing offense. I only watched just the highlights of this game, but they're looking good. I'm telling you, the Pac-12 is the conference this year.
They look really good. Tennessee knocked off Austin Peay 30-13.
Another struggle fest for Tennessee. I should say another struggle fest for a highly ranked SEC team. Mm-hmm. They didn't look their best, but they turned it on. They got that run game churning. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Notre Dame 45-24. Another great performance for Notre Dame, I thought. What's his face? Quarterback. Hartman.
A long delay. They were in that hurricane that's going up the East Coast. There was a huge delay. Mm-hmm. They come out, play the game. Hartman looks great. Throws a bunch of touchdown passes. They are a team. I mean, they're not in a conference.
No.
But they're going to play Clemson. They're a team.
Clemson is down. They got USC to come.
Yep. But they're a team I think is going to knock some people off.
Yes.
Because now they've got a good defense, and now they've got the offense that can capitalize.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see what Notre Dame does later in the season. Utah, in a struggle with Baylor, they won 20-13.
They got lucky. 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of the game to win.
Yeah.
We watched this game was playing on one of the TVs at Wally.
Yes.
And it was boring. And I'm pulling for Utah because that's my boss's team. And I was just like, hopefully they win. Yeah. And all of a sudden I saw on the ticker at the TV in front of us that they won. I was like, holy shit, it's like they were getting beat.
What do you think? A lot of this was the fact that it was just hot. It was in Baylor. It was in Texas. They're in Utah. They come to the South.
And, a lot of their starters are still out, and it wasn't an issue for them against Florida. First game of the season, they were at home. Yeah, you have a good point.
Last year they lost to Florida because it was so damn hot in Gainesville. Oregon, same deal, struggled at Texas Tech 38-30. That was a dangerous game.
That was a really good game by Texas Tech. By all intents and purposes, they should have won. Oregon had to score 20 points in the fourth to win. They took I think a 1-point lead and then got a pick, like a crazy pick six at the end there to make it look a little bit better than it was. But they were about to, and then also I think Texas Tech was able to throw a Hail Mary at the end. But they looked like they were primed to lose that game. Yes. And but hey, credit Oregon, credit Dan Lanning's crew. They found a way to win on the road, And that's not easy.
No.
Even when you play an unranked team, that ain't easy.
Yeah, it was a day game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, or it was like a mid-afternoon game. It was hot. Anyway, the Oregon, they can't handle the heat, man. LSU knocked off Grambling 72-10.
Yeah, we knew that was going to happen.
Yes.
They righted the ship. A lot of the problems that they had against Florida State. Obviously, they're not playing teams against Florida State. You're able to kind of get things rolling.
Yeah, get that first.
It's not even about beating a crappy team like Grambling. I don't want to say crappy team. It's not about beating like an FCS school like Grambling.
Yes.
It's not about destroying them and getting on the win column as much as it is, okay, this is what went wrong game one. Let's try to fix that. And if they can fix it, a lot of this stuff is execution. They're plenty talented.
Yes.
They had plenty of talent to beat Florida State. They didn't execute, and they executed yesterday.
Yeah. Everything's still in front of them for the rest of the season.
And that's all you're looking for. Florida was the same way. They looked like crap against Utah. They won big yesterday because they executed.
Kansas State knocked off Troy 42-13.
Didn't see any of this.
Didn't see any of that. Oregon State wins again, 55-7 against UC Davis.
I didn't see any of that either. But this game right here, this is always a great game. Every time these two teams play.
Yep, North Carolina, Appalachian State, 40-34. They actually played in Tar Heels, Chapel Hill. Last year they lost this game.
They had to go to they had to go to OT.
Yeah.
Appalachian State plays them so tough.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone last year was such a barn burner. This year's a barn burner. They need to make these guys play every single season.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you gotta credit Drake May.
Yeah.
And his crew, and they got it done when they needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma knocked off SMU 28-11.
After scoring like 100 million points last week, they scored 28. Just win in advance. You don't always have to play flawless. Just win the game, correct what was wrong, and move on to the next game.
That's right. Washington State knocked off Wisconsin 31-22.
Here we go. Wisconsin was my team in the Big Ten. I felt Pickles' offense was going to do something, spread them out wide, get the good running backs in the backfield, one back set, and they looked like straight up dog crap yesterday. I mean, they came back, they made a valiant comeback, but they didn't look good. They were number 19th in the country playing unranked Washington State. It was a good football team. They're a solid team. They're coached very well. They don't have tons of athletes, but they got the athletes in the right spot to make a little bit of noise. So they're a good football team. But I really thought Wisconsin was going to have that leap. They've got good players. They had bad leadership in the front office. I really felt they should have kept Leonard last year, but they didn't. They go out and get Fickle. He's a great coach, pretty good recruiter. I really thought he'd have them rolling. And maybe he will. It's only the second game of the season. They looked bad yesterday.
Ole Miss knocked off Tulane 37-20. This game looked real interesting by halfway to the third quarter, and Ole Miss decided to turn it on.
Ole Miss was down at half and made a nice comeback. Dart looked good. The wide receivers looked good. They basically, Tulane held Judkins in check for the most part, but Tulane, they looked pretty damn good too. They had some good skill guys, especially at wideout. Defensive line played pretty well, but you got to give Ole Miss some credit. They were down and they found a way to come back and make some plays. And just like the Oregon game, these guys had a scoop and score late to kind of make the game a little bit more of a blowout than it really was. They won by 17, but it was a little bit closer than that.
Right. Let's see. Duke knocked off Lafayette. I guess that's Louisiana Lafayette.
Yeah.
42-7.
Didn't see any of this, but hey, I did watch Duke take down Clemson last Monday night.
Yes, we did. We didn't get to talk about that.
They have a great running back. The QB is really good. Defense is good. Something about like the difference between the 4 and 5 stars on Clemson and Duke. But man, Duke looks good. They're very well coached. They fight hard. They play hard. Running backs are big dudes, really hard to get down. Good for them. Maybe they're going to make some noise this year in the ACC.
A lot of interesting games this week, especially this next one. Colorado knocked off Nebraska 36-14. Colorado's really good.
How was Colorado a 2.5 point favorite in this game? I should have put money on this. I didn't. I advised somebody else to put money on this, but I didn't. Colorado looks good. They've got some dudes, man. I'm telling you. I'm not a fan. I didn't, and I'll be honest. I'll say it right here. I didn't think they were going to be any good this year. But when you start looking at the guys they got in the portal, these weren't schlep rocks. They were getting some pretty good guys. The running back they got, he's a freshman. committed to Notre Dame, 4-star running back, decommitted, committed to Colorado. Travis Hunter's a 5-star. They got a couple of the wideouts that were 4-star transfer guys. They got some pretty good players. Now, they haven't played anybody all that good. First half of the game, Nebraska's defense pretty much held them.
Yeah.
You know, held them in check. Nebraska's offense is freaking terrible. Yeah. But the defense held them. And even it was a 36-14 win. I kind of feel that defense fought as hard as they could. But Travis Hunter's awesome. Shedeur Sanders is great. So Matt Rule was one of the coaches that had a lot of negative things to say about Deion. And I'm not going to get into all that, but what I did find interesting in the post-game press conference, Shedeur Sanders was basically talking about, like, you know, you disrespect my dad, and you're disrespecting me because he's my dad, and now you're trying to talk to him after the game and be like everything's fine, and you know they weren't having that bull crap. And I thought that was kind of cool, like, you know, the kid sticking up for the dad. Yeah. Deion's got that place rolling. I did hear a commit. There's a 3-star safety / wideout recruit down here in the state we live, and he's got offers from, you know, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky, a lot of SEC schools. I think Florida State wants him, but he took a visit to Colorado this week, and it looks like he's going to end up going there. It's not going to work for everybody, but that pull that Deion has is going to work on enough kids. They're going to get enough decent players every year, and they're going to compete.
Yeah. Any other year in the Pac-12, I would think Colorado had a chance to maybe win the Pac-12. That is a deep conference.
Yeah, this year it's just an amazing conference, but they're in a great spot. Yes. They're going to the Big 12 after Texas and Oklahoma bail. They're looking to be the kings of the castle in the Big 12.
That's right. Texas A&M, Miami, another big game. A lot of implications of this game.
This game was fun to watch. This was on at the Wally, and Texas A&M come out, took an early lead. Miami came back. Every time Texas A&M did something, Miami's coming right back with an answer. 5 touchdown passes from Van Dyke, all to wide receivers. This is a guy that was a highly projected pick quarterback for last year's draft. Had an abysmal season, looked freaking dreadful all year. Comes back, and he's looked like $1 million the first 2 games. He looks like the Kyle Van Dyke of 2 years ago when all the hype was on him. Looks really good throwing the football. They got a lot of good dudes at wide out. They got good running backs. Their defense is good and opportunistic. A&M's got a really good football team, too. A lot of offensive weapons. They just couldn't get out of their own damn way in this game. What they were doing, so the turning point of the game, they had like 3rd down and like 1. It was inside the 15 or something, inside the 10 or whatever, and they did a false start. Pushed them back. They couldn't get the first, had to kick a field goal. They kick a field goal, and they're down by like 2. When they, on the ensuing kickoff, Miami runs it back for a touchdown, so down 9. A missed, a false start, a missed opportunity, game changer. That was the whole change of the game right there, because Miami scored and went up by 9, never looked back, scored a couple more times. Yeah. But I would like to point out after that, A&M got the football, marched down the field and scored a touchdown.
It just seems like you start looking at some of these teams, it's like there's not a big disparity between a lot of these mid-tier teams. It's just a 7-point swing one way or the other just alters the whole complexity of the game.
The transfer portal has made it where you don't have to wait 3 to 4 years and have great solid recruiting classes 4 years straight, and then by the 4th year, hopefully your senior leadership is something special for you. Yeah. You don't have to wait. You're going to see a lot of, I hate to use this phrase, but you're going to see a lot of one-hit wonders. You're going to see a lot of teams push for that playoff spot because they got a couple of transfers that pay dividends. Right. And then for the next couple of years after that, they're going to drop back kind of lower. I think a lot of these schools we've talked about have really done well in the transfer portal.
Kind of like a Michigan State 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Who doesn't have a head coach anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't read the article about what he did. I looked at it as they're crap. They're paying him $100 trillion bajillion friggin' dollars, and they need to fire his ass.
Yes.
And they're gonna go the way that Northwestern did. So I don't know whether or not that stuff's legit.
It may be legit, it may not be, but he's unemployed.
Yeah, and that's a great way.
And if there's any truth to it, it probably needs to be gone.
Great way of getting out of that buyout.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Miami's looking good.
Absolutely. And
Clemson won. They looked a little sluggish, and then had a giant scoring spree. Yep. They just don't. And I called this too. They don't have it. They lost all those dudes KJ Henry, Brian Barisi, Miles Murphy. You lost all those dudes on the defensive line. And what did Duke do to them? Ran all over them. You lost all these skill guys. You know, Will Shipley's great. They got a really good tight end. Their wideouts are nothing like the last.
Used to be dominant.
They did. The last 6 or 7 years, they had like. There were 3 or 4 deep of these like 6'4" dudes. Now they're all playing on Sundays. Yeah. The guys they got playing wideout now, they're not beating anybody. I still see Clemson losing 2 more games.
Yeah. Moving right along to next week's slate of games. Georgia's got UAB. No.
It's 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks. What are we doing this week?
But that 2 weeks from now, another loss for Clemson. They're playing against Florida State.
Yeah. See, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. We got big things happening. We got Miami playing Bethune-Cookman Thursday.
I mean, I'll watch it because it's football, but I won't be like glued to my TV.
Yeah, nothing really happening. You get Maryland against Virginia.
Now that 8 o'clock Air Force Utah State game, those teams aren't super exciting, but it's always a fun, hard-hitting game, especially Utah. I love watching Utah Thursday, Friday, or even Saturday nights. They're not super skilled, but they're just tough dudes. Every time I watch them, there's always 1 or 2 guys in the field I'm like rooting for because the guy just looks like a football player.
On Utah State?
Yeah, I mean, they might not have anybody that can play at any other Power 5 school, but they've got some dudes that just play hard. And they're like Samoan. They're not going anywhere but a Utah school.
Right.
But you watch them play, and the way they play in the game, you're like, man, this guy, you throw this dude like on, LSU, this guy's an All-American. Yeah. They got all those schools. Utah's got a couple of them. Yeah. Those schools always have a few of those dudes.
Yeah. Florida State's got Boston College at noon Saturday.
Penn State, Illinois. Let's talk about Illinois for a minute.
Yeah.
Excellent season last year. Almost played for the Big Ten championship game. Had a handful of guys drafted. A couple of them drafted pretty damn high. Yep. Thought Brett Bielema he's got his formula. I thought his formula was going to work in Illinois. I thought they were going to get some guys in there. They did get some guys in the portal. They got a portal QB that can throw the football. My God, they look bad. Like their offensive line looks like it's a D3 school offensive line. They don't look big. They don't block anybody. Kansas straight up took it to them on Friday night. I mean, it was ugly. Really ugly. Kansas' defensive line. You don't think Kansas. Kansas, great job with the portal. Yeah. A lot of senior leadership after a great season last year. So this could be one of those situations where they're going to be good for a year or two and then they're kind of going to fall back. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Their defensive line's good. Their running backs and skill guys were scrawny but fast. They remind me a lot of Louisville and Cincinnati, where the dudes, playing running backs, not a big old dude, but he can run like the wind. Yeah. Illinois had no answer. They looked bad. And then, of course, Jerry, love you, buddy. It's going to be a rough season for you, my friend.
Especially when you get Kent State coming to town.
Yeah, he was texting me back and forth. He's like, 3-win season incoming. And I was like, oh, God, after all the fun that they had last year.
Yeah. That was a good matchup last year. Illinois ended up pulling it out against Penn State.
Yeah, there was triple overtime.
Yeah. Nobody could move the ball. We got Mississippi State LSU at noon as well.
That'd be a good game.
That'd be a good game. Yeah.
Mississippi State's coach drops an F-bomb on live TV after the game, after a 4th down stop, had to go to 4th down stop, has to go to replay. They review, he's short of the line of the game, game's over, right? And they ask him, what do you think? He goes, we fucking, they go, oh, my bad. It was great. Yeah. They're not a bad football team. I think LSU should take them. It's a new kick.
This is gonna be.
We'll probably be watching this at the tailgate before going into the game, but
I think another interesting game is this Kansas State Missouri game. It's also at noon. Kansas State's going to go into Mizzou. We'll see what Kansas State's got.
Kansas State's good at running the football, and Missouri is good at defending the run. So we'll kind of see what we got there, but I expect Kansas State to take care of business.
That's right. Let's see what else we got going on. We got Georgia at 3:30 taking on South Carolina.
Should be a good game.
Should be a good game.
Alabama's going to look to bounce back against South Florida. They already dropped them down to 10.
Yeah.
They were. It was 4 at 11. They dropped them to 10.
Oklahoma's got Tulsa.
Minnesota, North Carolina. That'd be a good game.
Interesting game, yes.
I expect Drake May to throw the football all over the field, but still should be a good game. Minnesota's a well-coached team.
Yeah. Duke Northwestern.
Northwestern's not going to win a game, and I really Couldn't be happier.
Ohio State's got Western Kentucky. Maybe Texas A&M can bounce back against Louisiana Monroe.
Washington's going to destroy Michigan State. Another one of those Pac-12 Big Ten matchups. We talked about this last week. I honestly feel that when they scheduled all these games, there was at some point during one of these matchups over the last couple of years, and this has been going on for like 3 or 4 seasons, that the ADs will start talking to each other.
Let's see what else we got. We got Florida, Tennessee next Saturday.
7 p.m. That means we got to hit the highway.
Got to roll, man.
And get on back. We're going to have to put that on the radio, listen to the first half.
That's right. Auburn going to take on Samford. Let's see what else we got.
There's not a lot of good games. I know a lot of the conferences start conference play next week, but not many good games. Michigan at Bowling Green.
You got Ole Miss against
Georgia Tech. That should be an interesting game.
Yeah. Let's see. Arkansas BYU.
It'll be a good game.
Yep. Texas has got Wyoming.
Colorado State. Boring. Yeah. I mean, I'll watch. It's 10 o'clock at night. That'll be the game of the night, the late night game. Be able to watch. Colorado's going to be one of them teams that I'm not comparing them to Boise State. I'm not comparing them to the Florida of Steve Spurrier years. They're going to be one of those teams that fans, casual fans, or fans that aren't fans of Colorado, they're going to be one of those teams. Every couple of years, there's one of them. And I just used Steve Spurrier-led Florida in Boise State because those were good examples that you wanted to watch those games because you knew they were going to put up a crap ton of points. So it was just kind of fun to watch. Maybe just watch the first half or something. I remember those days as a kid just watching Florida because you knew guys like Danny Werfel were going to throw for like 400 yards. I think Colorado's going to be that team. They're going to put up tons and tons of points.
Yeah, I think later on in the season we'll find out if they can actually stop somebody. Well, that's it. I guess that is this week's slate of games and next week's slate of games. So we'll see what happens.
Next week's a little disappointing in my opinion. There's only just a couple of games, big time matchups. Even that Tennessee-Florida, that's a huge rivalry. If you're an SEC fan, even if you're a fan of a team that's not one of those two schools, that's a huge rivalry. Florida's kind of crappy. Last year's game with Anthony Richardson was a really good game. Probably a little bit more hard fought than you would expect if it was played at the middle and end of the year.
Right.
It's always the beginning of the season type of game. That's always a great game. Huge rivalry. It's in the swamp. I expect Tennessee to roll, but I do expect the hatred to be flowing for that game. And it's kind of sad that really is the only big matchup. Georgia, South Carolina is kind of a rivalry. LSU, Mississippi State. So we mentioned earlier a lot of conference games. The SEC is going to conference schedules this week for the most part. So that would be a good game. LSU, Mississippi State, Georgia, South Carolina is kind of a rivalry. But the last couple of years, South Carolina's been bad. So the rivalry was big when Spurrier was there and they had Jadeveon Clowney and those guys. It's kind of tapered off since then. But really looking forward to that Florida-Tennessee game.
Well, that's it.